It was awful. He was just screaming, like, I know she's here. I know she's here. And we couldn't give him any information. And he just sat down on the chair in the waiting room and just wept. I was like, why can't we just let this poor guy see his girlfriend?
Welcome to Should We Get Married?
My name's Emily Carter.
My name is Maxon Jarecki.
And in this podcast, Maxon and I are trying to figure out if we should get legally married to each other.
Or stay dating forever.
What's up with people playing it so cool these days?
Today's guest is Deb Hemmerly, who is our friend and a critical care nurse at the neurotrauma ICU at San Francisco General Hospital.
We wanted to ask Deb if it's true that you can only visit someone in the emergency room if you're married. So what'd you think of our conversation with Deb, Emily? Like, what'd you learn?
I feel like we got some off-menu hacks from Deb about how to go about this if you're not married. There are definitely some ways to kind of tiptoe around the frameworks and the laws, so it was helpful to get that from her. And if we decide ultimately not to get married, we have some more information that we can be armed with if we're in a very unfortunate situation like this.
Yeah, the story itself also was crazy. She went through this experience, which you guys will hear about. This couple went through this horrible tragedy, and the fact that they were not legally married was a big piece of why it sucked so much for them. And this experience actually prompted Deb and Jason, her now husband, to first get a domestic partnership like the day after this happened or the week after it happened. So very moving for them, and I think is moving for us.
And also, I think a lot of what we hear from people is like, okay, you don't really need to get married until push comes to shove and your girlfriend or boyfriend is in the hospital and you can't visit them. So that was what prompted us to dig into this topic and try and get to the bottom of it.
All right, let's get into the conversation with our good friend and trauma nurse, Deb. Thank you, Deb.
I've been a nurse for 14 years, and I've always worked at the same hospital. I moved up to San Francisco after I finished nursing school. Started working at San Francisco General, which is this large trauma center powerhouse of a hospital. Pretty soon after I started working there, there was this case that just shook me. It's like I still can see it so clearly, and I think about it all the time. And it totally changed the course of my relationship with my now husband. So it was like I worked a night shift. It was 1 a.m, I want to say. We got a trauma ring down and all the bells are going off that there's this really sick trauma coming in. And all we knew was it was a 20-year-old girl. And there was a witness, and they said apparently her car had stopped on the side of the road. There was a call box on the other side of the freeway and just dark. And she thought that she could run across the freeway and make it, but it's really hard to gauge the headlights that late. And she got hit by a car.
Wow.
So she was still alive. They resuscitated her. They brought her into the ER. And part of my job was to help identify who this person was. So the EMT dropped off her purse that was in her car. We looked at her ID, we figured out what her name was, and figured out what her insurance was. And it was just really weird because she looked like me on her driver's license. I was 24, she was 24, she's blonde. Her identified next of kin were her parents still, but they were living in New York. And so it was probably 3 or 4 a.m. by that time. No one answered the phone. The nurses and doctors were working on her, trying to keep her alive until they could find someone to come and designate medical decisions. And all of a sudden, this guy just busts through the waiting room, this young guy, and he's calling her by name. Is she here? I know she's here. She's supposed to be at my house. She was on her way to my house and she never showed up. She's not answering her phone. I drove by. I saw her car on the end of the freeway. I saw that there was an accident. There's police. And we're the only trauma center. So he put everything together and he was there. Everyone's, no, we can't give that sort of information out. It's really up to doctor on whether information is given out. And because we had already tried to call the next of kin, her parents, they decided not to give any information to him. And he was just in so much distress. It was awful. He was just screaming, I know she's here. I know she's here. And we couldn't give him any information. And he just sat down on the chair in the waiting room and just wept. And she died, probably, 20 minutes later. And then the doctor comes out and escorts him into the room because at that point, she's no longer a patient. She had died, so he's able to see her. And it was just so traumatic. I was like, why can't we just let this poor guy see his girlfriend, I was shooken. And I went home that morning and slept and then talked to Jason, my then boyfriend, and was like, we have to do something. So we went that week to get domestic partners at the courthouse. just so there was some sort of documentation of our relationship.
I'm curious what that was like for you. Bring us back to where you were during that time.
Yeah, it was awful. He was in such distress. And I had already had this transference with her. Like I saw her and me, or me and her. And then he comes in and I just see him as Jason. And I'm like, wow, what would that look like if I got in this terrible accident and my parents couldn't be reached? And he's upset and can't get any information. And even if she had lived, or if I was in that situation and I had lived longer than the 20 minutes to a place where some medical decisions needed to happen, I would want him to make those decisions. Yeah, it just made me really sad that he could have at least held her hand through death. And instead, she died alone when someone that she loved was in the waiting room. I think it's just terrible.
Do you remember him walking into the room and what his reaction was to actually being able to be with her?
I was not in the room. I could not be in the room. But I saw him walk into the room and yeah, he was heartbroken
Mm-hmm.
and angry. I think so angry at us, which I don't blame him. From his perspective, we had information that we were keeping him from, and he could have been there with his loved one, and we prevented him from doing that. So I think he was reasonably very angry. And then you try to see it from the physician's perspective, and they're always worried about legal ramifications. They don't want to give away patient information without having some sort of support legally.
What happens from there? Like, he's eventually let in the room after she passes. You got some time to just be there with her, or are you rushed out and you just put into the street and the body's taken away?
If I remember correctly, he got some time with her, and I do know he was able to like sit with her for a while. At some point that morning, the parents did call and get an update from the physician, so they were able to be updated. But they were out of state, so they couldn't visit.
And for the doctor or physician, it's up to their jurisdiction. Like, what is typically going through their mind? Is this maybe a doctor who's like number 5 on the list of people? Like, can in good faith let them in? Is it more like, we just got to stay focused, this is a distraction? Like, how do you imagine they're thinking about it?
I really think it's physician dependent and hospital dependent.
Mhm.
And then I think there's a culture that's in play, not only within the hospital, but in the state and surrounding area. This is actually something historically that came up a lot at the same hospital back in the 90s with the AIDS epidemic. There were a lot of estranged young adults that had come to San Francisco and left their family. Maybe hadn't talked to their parents in years, decades. Then all of a sudden were on ventilators, having end-stage AIDS and needing someone to make a decision. And it was just their partner. Historically, our hospital tends to be on the more liberal side and like accepting chosen family over maybe biological family. So it does make me wonder what other hospitals would be like in different states that don't have that sort of history.
Well, how would you counsel us? What questions would you ask us to help us figure out what we wanted to do?
I would tell you to first get an advance directive, because that supersedes everything. If you designate in your health advance directive that, Maxon, you want Emily to make your health decisions, then that's a legally binding document and you don't have to get married.
What is that? Do I do it online?
You do it through your provider. So if you're in another state and get in a car accident and go to some random hospital, they're going to have no idea what document exists. I think you should get that first.
Okay. In California.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case. So it's a part of your medical record.
Are there many questions on it?
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Oh, it's just like a paragraph?
It can be as detailed as you want of what your wishes would be, that you never want to be on a ventilator, whatever. You can detail your wishes, or you can literally just say, I want Emily to make all my decisions, which is kind of cruel.
It's like a medical prenup.
Medical
Yeah.
prenup.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
And do you have one, Deb?
I don't. I'm the worst. I tell everyone to. I'm so bad. It's like I literally just need to fill out the paperwork.
So for you,
But I got married, so
That's true.
Okay, but
yeah, you did the
that's-
more complicated version of it.
is it certain then that Jason has decision-making authority?
Oh yeah,
Is
he's top of the list because he's my spouse.
Mhm.
It makes
Spouse
it so
is top
easy.
of the list. The second you get married, it goes from parents to spouse.
Yep,
And that's just the default unless you have an advanced directive.
correct.
I think it's advance directive. Oh, and
Advanced.
Is it advanced? What is it? Advanced. Advanced directive.
Okay, but Deb, how?
If I designated Emily even though I'm married to Jason, they would let Emily make the decisions.
Okay. Deb, I'm designating you for everything, and I'm making it all
Oh,
very
dear.
vague what my wishes are
Oh no.
to trap you.
I got you
How-
though.
okay. So how do they know, God forbid, you are in an accident, Jason comes to the hospital?
Mhm.
How do they know that he's your husband? You can say, I'm the husband, but how do they actually figure that out?
Literally, it's just him saying, I'm your husband.
Oh my
That's the
gosh.
other weird part, is if that guy in that terrible story had just said, I'm her husband, probably would have gone the room. Because it's so fast, there's no time to go and check the marriage certificate that was filed. And I think there's some security maybe the provider feels in being able to say they told they were the husband if ever
Yeah.
a legal issue came up. And so it's almost like just lie and say
Mhm.
you're married when you're in that situation.
This is a huge unlock. I find this to be like completely fascinating and extremely helpful. And a lot of people out there probably don't know that you are automatically signing up for this person to be your default decision maker. And a lot of people, myself included, Emily included, probably are like not 100% sure that's what we want to do.
It's very interesting in my world in the ICU when, we have maybe adult children who are at the bedside helping make decisions. And then all of a sudden a wife rolls in and no one knew a wife existed.
Mhm.
And the adult children say, oh, yeah, she's been gone for 10 years,
Whoa.
but legally she's the wife. And then
Wow.
that gets a little hairy. So, it's a big decision.
You've seen that go down?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. The drama.
The drama of it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do people squabble in the room?
Oh, it's all kinds. Yeah. And sometimes these decisions take months. Sometimes a person will be on life support while their family tries to decide what should happen to them. And maybe they'll be determined to be brain dead and they're on a ventilator and they'll be in the ICU for months while the family fights it out to determine what to do.
Emily, do you think you want your parents to be the main decision maker in the foreseeable future, or do you prefer that I be your decision maker for the foreseeable future?
Currently with my parents, so they're a little more top of mind. I imagine this being like a group decision of the most important people in my life and ultimately you. But I would love Maddie and Paul and Alex and my parents and my sister and you to get together and figure it out. I also think we should talk about it. I would like to know what everyone's wishes are in a moment of not panic or lack of clarity.
Hard because you just never know what emotions are going to present in that situation. Yes, the idea is so great for everyone to sit in conference and decide what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is maybe your mom's like, I will do anything to not lose my little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Maxon, do you want Emily to be your decision maker if you're not able to?
Yeah, I actually don't think I would. I think I want my parents to be the decision maker, but I want to have a advance directive that really specifies a lot of what Emily just said, which is I would like for this to be a group discussion. I ultimately want my parents to be driving the boat. My parents have known me my whole life, Emily, for 4 years.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I think my parents having that responsibility, it's maybe a little bit of a gift to Emily to make her not have that final responsibility, but to have her really be part of the conversation. Also, weirdly, I think that if my parents are given that responsibility, my level of care will be higher because my parents know lots of doctors and have more money than Emily and I do. And my parents will probably go harder at trying to find a solve, if there is one, if they're empowered with more responsibility. So I think for these reasons, I think I would want my parents to be the main people with Emily and a few other people, but really Emily as the main person as all part of the discussion.
Do you think that would ever change, or that's how you imagine your life? What happens if
No,
they're
I-
maybe older?
Yeah, no, I imagine that change. As you and I develop our relationship more and we really grow into a shared life, which we have now, but we'll have even more. It's so interesting, the level of closeness that I feel with Emily is closer than anyone. But my parents are like my parents. If my dad were to approach my medical advocacy with the same fervor he approached editing my 4th grade English class essays, then I think I'm coming back. I think I'm the one guy coming back.
Say you had a devastating brain injury. Would you want to live out the rest of your life on a ventilator in the nursing home? I'm asking you, Maxon, and then Emily.
I'd be curious to hear Emily talk first. I have my view, so I have my view in my head. It's not going to change. I'm curious what Emily says.
I would not want that. No. I would want minimal death and focus to be on life. And I think the more long the death period is, the more time that becomes the focus. And people contribute to that memory of that being the way you left and how they conceive of you.
I think I'll probably live longer on the ventilator. So if I can live to 120, 130 on the ventilator, then then I win. No, I'm kidding. I think I would love to have a 2 or 3 month period where I'm on the ventilator, I'm being visited, I have enough time for people to come and make their... I know a lot of people, I'm a very beloved guy. So I want to give these people the opportunity to come and say goodbye to me and close that chapter with me. Also, at the same time, I'm one of these people who anything can happen. I could just raise up out of the dead. I understand that's not actually true, but having a 2 or 3 month fluke period where I'm like, just in case someone read the chart wrong.
Give it a little time.
I just want a little bit of time. I don't want to be like 10:05, I'm declared brain dead, and 10:54, I'm like off. I just would love a little bit of time in case there's some sort of fluke. So maybe I'll specify this in my advance directive about the fluke period.
How would each of you define marriage? What is it to you?
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Yeah. I find it unbelievably unique and more unique the more we talk about it, in that it's like a logistical, practical, spiritual, emotional thing. Nothing else is like that. Like you go to church, that's a religious thing. You go to your job, that's like a logistical, practical thing. What else has all of this on it? But knee-jerk reaction is, it doesn't feel quite right. But how can I empower myself and make it my own? So I actually want to ask him what that means to you.
It had to grow on me. It sounds like you both are asking the same questions Jason and I did before. Because you have to make a decision to get married. You don't have to make a decision to not be married, right? So we just stayed not married until this event happened in the hospital, and then we became domestic partners, because that's just easy. You go to the courthouse and at least we have something filed. But then it was like, well, we're already domestic partners. Should we just get married? And then we sat there for a bit, but then decided we wanted to buy property. Jason's a veteran, and so we have access to the VA home loan, but because it's a federal loan, they only recognize marriage and being able to use both the incomes for the loan. They don't acknowledge domestic partnerships. So we were like, okay, I guess we can buy a condo together. And so then we eloped that weekend in Reno. And then it was like, we sat with that for a bit and we were like, that was really fun. What a great memory, just the two of us. Wouldn't it be cool if we did that, but had all of our friends and family in the same room? It was like one of the best memories I still have to this day, is us like getting married, just the two of us. But then the thought of doing that with everyone else seems crazy, amazing. So then we were at Burning Man the next year with our dear friends that we've camped with for years, and decided, let's surprise everyone and do a spontaneous wedding. So we took our whole camp to this Vegas camp where they have an Elvis marry you. And we did a surprise wedding for them, and it was so much fun. And Jason's mom actually was at Burning Man with us that year. After the wedding, they were like, oh, we're so sorry. We ran out of marriage certificates. So we were like, oh, okay. And it was just a party for no reason. But then we had so much fun there, and just like really eased into the fact that like we're the center of attention. Yes, this is for us to get married, but really it's like a celebration of love. And it's with all these people who we have these like strong bonds with, and they're celebrating us. Like, how amazing is that? So then we were like, screw it, let's do a real wedding. We kind of had like 4 different weddings
to 4 weddings.
in a sense. Yeah. So then we planned like a big destination wedding in New Orleans that we had 150 people at. That we had a big parade down in the French Quarter, and it was a huge shindig. It was great.
Wow.
We did all kinds. We did it all. And all of them were great.
Did people know you had eloped at your group wedding? They didn't.
No one knows except you guys, and now anyone who's listening to the
you're
podcast.
Kidding. Oh, I didn't know that. Holy shit. Wait, just now you're announcing to the entire world that you eloped, and everyone at your wedding didn't know that you had eloped, including your parents.
Correct. Why? Why do they need to know that?
They don't.
Because to that, it comes down to like, a wedding is a celebration of love. It doesn't have to be connected to marriage, the paperwork of marriage or the legality of it.
Well, okay. All right. So we do this typically with our guests, which is, we just had an awesome conversation. And Deb, you actually know me and you know Emily outside of this conversation here. With everything you've seen, with what you know about us, with the conversation we've had, do you think that Emily and I should get legally married? Or should we remain loving each other, dating each other, building a life together without being legally married?
Yes. Boom.
Podcast over.
It's a life experience. Don't you want to experience everything from life? You can do it in your own way. You can elope. You can have a wedding. You can not tell anyone. You can tell everyone. You can get a prenup. You can have an advance directive. You can do all the things to make it the way you want, but why not?
Yeah, I like that.
I'm happy I did it.
Thanks for talking to us. This was so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah. Whatever you decide.
So Emily, you knew Deb before even I knew Deb. You're the one who introduced me to Deb. Did you know that Deb and Jason had actually eloped? Like, was that news to you?
It was news to me. And we actually asked her to fabricate something for the podcast to have some sort of like
Like a big reveal? Yeah. And that's what she came up with?
So she did an amazing job.
Great. So that whole thing was a lie.
Yeah, that was a lie. No, but seriously.
Yeah. I wonder who out there is going to be the most scandalized by this being the first time that they learn. I bet no one will be scandalized.
Yeah, it's fake. No, actually, it's real.
No, it's real. It's actually real. Okay, but it was fake, right?
I think I swear on my life that they got eloped.
They got eloped. Oh, sorry, they got eloped.
Would you get eloped?
It takes two to get eloped.
Are you laughing because you're just supposed to say elope?
Yeah, it's a really funny way to put it. Did you get eloped?
I would get eloped, yeah. I think it sounds funny. Like, it's kitschy.
You'd get eloped. You'd be like,
Camp.
we got eloped. And get this, we eloped.
And for our last twist.
We've been eloped the whole time. That's the twist of the show.
Yeah.
And Deb isn't even real. That was an AI person that we made. And they never got eloped because AIs don't feel love, nor do they have any kind of bureaucratic ceremonies.
Nope.
All right, cool. All right, so some takeaways. You can lie to the people in the emergency room and probably still get in to visit your partner. Another takeaway, it's probably a good idea for everyone to have conversations with their partner and their family about what you want to have happen if you are declared brain dead and could be resuscitated or cannot be resuscitated. And if you're feeling like you want to have extra bonus points, you could create something called an advanced healthcare directive, which sounds like it could just be like a paragraph that you submit to like a hospital somewhere. And another takeaway, when you get married, your spouse becomes your default decision maker, and you can specify that you still want to be your parents in the advanced healthcare directive. And then last takeaway, which is not relevant for us, but if you're a veteran and you want to get a VA loan and you want to count both of your incomes, then you must be married. And that's another driver for why they got legally married. So, Emily, we just had this conversation with Deb. We learned a lot. Is this conversation making you more interested in getting married to me or less interested in getting married to me?
I found this super interesting, but neutralizing on that. Like, I feel that we're both open to lying. We're both open to doing like a change in the advanced healthcare directive once we get to a certain age and maybe start to want to be each other's healthcare proxy. So it just feels like we don't need marriage in the short term around these issues. So it neither dissuaded nor pushed me more toward it.
But if you had to
How about
choose, what is it? Drop in the bucket of get married or drop in the bucket of not get married?
Why do I have to choose?
Otherwise, it's just like nothing.
Okay, I guess not. Drop in the bucket of not.
Sorry, what?
Drop in the bucket of not getting married.
Listen, like saying it shitty is just makes us have to re-record it again. She's sabotaging the project.
I don't feel that it dropped me away from it. It was just like, it didn't change.
Okay.
It didn't push me toward
All
it.
right. You're totally
It
neutral.
didn't push me away from it.
You're complete. Okay. You're neutral. You're neutral. Fine. Fine. What if I said that this conversation we're having right now is a drop in the bucket of me not wanting to get married to you? What about that?
I would understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No. All right. Fine. This conversation for me was also neutral. Oh, fine. I think I slightly drop in the bucket of we don't have to do it because we're not veterans and you can lie to get into the emergency room. And if we get married, we already are going to be like specifying an advanced healthcare directive that we don't want to be each other's default decision maker until we're 40. So that's a drop. That's a drop in the not doing it bucket because, yeah, but it's not that big of a drop. I'm with you.
Okay, now that we've talked through healthcare and emergency room visits and advanced healthcare directives and everything like that, we are going to get into our next topic next week and see how we feel about marriage then.
And here's a little bit of that.
I met my first husband and boom, big fell in love. It was like a foregone conclusion. Oh my God, I was so in love. You're just everything. I want to inhale you. And then he left me.
Should We Get Married is an original series by Easily Wowed and Bad Cooley Productions. This episode was created by me, Maxon Jarecki,
And me, Emily Carter.
and our producer, Ramoy Phillip.
Theme music is the song Fake Romantic by the band Melt.
Sound design and mixing by Ramoy Phillip. We also want to say thank you to Deb Hemmerly for this awesome interview with us.
There's so many of you out there who are asking these same questions, and we don't all have to investigate marriage on our own. So subscribe to Should We Get Married and learn with us as we make our decision.
See you next time.
Bye.
Take home